That shouldn't have happened. Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the For Your Team's Fire American Soccer Show, part two of the. I'm having problems with my earphones. Hold on one second, Michael. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's try this again. Welcome back to the American Soccer Show here, Fire American Soccer Show, part two of the World Cup qualification process in the June window. Once again, I have Michael Lewis joining me tonight to talk CONCACAF and other guests later on tonight. Michael, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing well, Daniel. Hope you are too. You and I go way back, at least 10, 15 years. I think COVID's probably screwed all our minds on time and whatnot, but we've known each other for quite a long time.
Absolutely, and can't wait to have you talk about what's going on in CONCACAF. We're going to go ahead and delve into the groups right now. We're going to start off with Group A in CONCACAF. Now, this is the second round. We have Honduras right now in 6 points in the group. First place, Cuba and Cayman Islands are tied for second place with 3 points, but Cuba's ahead on the goal differential, +1. Fourth place in Antigua and Barbuda with 1 point, and Bermuda also with 1 point. They're in fifth, but Antigua is ahead with a -1. What do we think about with Honduras, Michael? They've been up and down most of the time, but I think they're probably riding the ship here.
Yeah, you would think that I've got them and Cuba actually going through. I'm not trying to get ahead of ourselves there, at least at this level. They've reached the World Cup once. Very, very happy for them. But this generation, it's almost like they're regenerating themselves. I think they'll go through to the next round. I'm not going to say easily, but they're pointed in that direction. You know, Cuba, they have some very talented soccer players.
True.
Oh, go on. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
They have some very talented soccer players over the years. Some have left the country for good. I know the travel policies have changed in recent years. I thought they had a fantastic generation 10, 15 years ago. Players that wound up playing in MLS, Osvaldo Alonso, among others. And they're a good team for the Caribbean. Are they a good team to reach the World Cup? I think the one thing we have to remember about the World Cup is CONCACAF gets 6 berths. 3 of them have been taken already by the hosts. 3 are up for grabs, and without the big giants, Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. So it's pretty exciting for these teams, Central American and Caribbean, that they'll get an opportunity to go, and multiple teams. So that's the fun thing about this competition.
It really is. And finally, I fixed that issue I had in my headset. So you were fine, Michael. Just my headset had a little bit of an issue. I finally fixed that. So I'm glad we can get on with this and continue on. We'll go to Group B right now. Costa Rica, of course, leading with 6 points. First place, Trinidad and Tobago in second place with 4 points. Third place, St. Kitts and Nevis with 3. Grenada is in fourth place with a point. And we got the Bahamas in dead last, no points in 2 matches. Trinidad, I don't know, ever since that famed day down at Port of Spain, they've always been up and down, Michael. And I don't know, maybe they're finally starting to right the ship themselves as well?
They've had excellent players come out of the island country. I think they're the smallest world team to participate in the World Cup a number of years ago, 2006. My God, it's almost like a generation ago. They've had talented players, but they can never really get it together. There have been problems on and off the field, some corruption, maybe a lot of corruption, not with the players, but with people in charge of their confederation. Maybe this is the time for them to turn things around. We won't know until later on. Costa Rica's in first place. TNT, the Soccer Warriors, are in second place. both should go through, I would say, fairly handily. Um, I guess we're going to have to wait until tougher competition comes aboard for the soccer warriors. Um,
Absolutely.
for
Yeah.
Costa Rica, they've been, after before Canada moved up in the pecking order, the Costa Ricans were up there with the U.S. and Mexico for years. Again, a smaller country. What do they have? 5 million people. I'm doing this off the top of my head now. They've had an incredible run at the World Cup since 1990, Italia 90. They participated in 6 World Cups since then. And by the way, they're the only team from CONCACAF, or the first team from CONCACAF that actually reached the knockout round in Europe. That was when Bora Milutinovic was coaching the team in 1990. I know he's not coaching the team now. This is not the same Costa Rican team as we know that have made life miserable for the U.S. in San Jose, Costa Rica, and sometimes in the United States. But still, it'll be intriguing to see how they mesh together, newcomers and a few veterans that have more than 100 caps, and see how far they could go. They could wind up participating at the World Cup next year.
It could be. We'll see what happens there. We go to Group C, and Curacao, along with Haiti, tied for first place with 6 points. Curacao with a +5 differential, while Haiti has a +3. In third place, we have St. Lucia, Aruba in fourth, and Barbados in last. Ever since former Dutch manager Dick Advocaat has taken over Curacao, Michael, I think he's improved them by a lot, got them back into the Gold Cup, winning their group in League B, got them promoted to League A, and now I think they're just back into it.
There's nothing like having an experienced coach who's been around the block, who could put a system into place, not maybe using the players he wants to use, but using the players that fit a system. And yeah, that's a great start for them. Whoever thought Curacao would be leading a group, I'll say this late in the qualification process. If you would have told me before this that they were going to be leading the group, or at least, well, they are by goal differential, but if you would have told me they would be leading the group, I'd say you're crazy. One thing that's helped them and Haiti has been to the World Cup many, many years ago, is that this is probably the weakest out of all the groups. Because you've got Caribbean teams that just have never really done well. St. Lucia, Aruba, and I know Barbados did play the U.S. in the semifinal round for the 2002 World Cup, but they're not the same team today as they were, I'll use that word again, a generation ago. But, one thing that I enjoy about World Cup qualifying, I root for the minnows. I want to see a surprise. I want to see an upset. And maybe this is the year Curacao will run the table and make it to the World Cup, or perhaps go deep in qualifying. There's nothing like an upset.
Very true. No, very true. And that's what I hope for as well. You want to see this confederation grow and be better outside the top 3, which is, of course, Canada, the U.S., and Mexico. So hopefully we'll see that happen. We're going to go to Group D now. Here we got Nicaragua in first place with 6 points. Panama also with 6 points as well. But at the moment, Nicaragua has 2 goals better than Panama. Guyana in third place with 3 points. Montserrat with no points. Belize also no points. This seems to be a over and done with group as well, Michael.
Yes, it is. Nicaragua, never been to the World Cup, but there's always a first time for everything. Even though I do a lot of research in history, I try not to stay in history and saying just because it happened in the past, it's going to happen today or in the future. Maybe this is the time they make that big step. Panama, they have been a pain in the you-know-what in the U.S. side in 2 big competitions. We're talking about last year's Copa America, and then this year in the semifinals of the CONCACAF Nations League, downing the U.S. Twice. One thing I've always enjoyed about Panama, and this has been for the last 10 or 15 years. They remind me of the U.S. teams back in the early 90s. They do have talent, no doubt about that, but they grind. They're not afraid to be physical. They play with their hearts on their sleeve. And we've seen that happen the last two times they played the USA. I would not be surprised if Panama does wind up reaching, becomes one of the 3 CONCACAF teams to reach the World Cup next year. Like I said, a gritty side.
And I am back. I had to take care of a little short business. But absolutely, Michael, Thomas Christensen for Panama has been amazing as a head coach for them. He has really unlocked how to beat the U.S. In an important competition. That's why you play friendlies, to check them out. And when you play them in an official competition, they'll find a way to get you. And they've been getting our guys for a good while now. So, fair play to Thomas Christensen, how he's managed Panama against our players. We're going to move on to Group E. And here we go. We got Guatemala in first place, Jamaica in second, both with 6 points. Dominican Republic so far has been a surprise. They've improved since that under-20 team reached the under-20 World Cup and the Olympics back in last summer in Paris. And then, of course, you got Dominica in fourth, British Virgin Islands in last, both with nothing. Jamaica's got their hands full, I think, with Guatemala right now.
Yes. Guatemala never been to the World Cup. They produced some really good players, some that's played in MLS. But they just have never been able to get it together. They could make life tough for the U.S., but the U.S. has, I'm just using this as an example, that's my frame of context, but they just don't have the wherewithal to go deep in qualifying these days. Maybe this is the year that's different, no doubt about that. Jamaica, big deal. They reached the World Cup in 1998. It's not easy for a Caribbean team when you only have 3 countries from the Confederation going, and it's the usual 3, whether it's the U.S., Mexico, Canada, Costa Rica. Again, they've had some talented players. I've seen a number of them play for the Red Bulls. A lot of fun to watch them play. Dane Richards is one of them. But again, perhaps this is the year for them. One thing that I miss is that I used to go to a lot of these qualifiers in the Caribbean and in Central America, and seeing these teams play live and talking to the players. And I'd love to know what is the heart of the Jamaican side right now.
Mm-hmm. Very true. And usually Andre Blake has been a thorn in the side in MLS play. Has done well in international play for Jamaica as their starting goalkeeper, but he's getting up there in age, and we'll see how much longer he has left. But we'll see if he does put them into a World Cup. Should be a lot of fun. And finally, Michael, we have our final group, Group F, and we have, I think, this is basically a who's who in this group. You got Suriname right now in first place with 6 points. Puerto Rico has always been a hit or miss side as well. They're in second place with 4 points. El Salvador in third place, tied with Puerto Rico on points. St. Vincent Grenadines in fourth. And finally, Anguilla, that unfortunately is it's a bottom dweller nation in CONCACAF. Usually majority of the Caribbean are, but still though, they are in dead last. What surprises you with Group F here?
The 2 first place teams, Suriname and Puerto Rico. I have done stories and covered them, by the way, in the past. Suriname has helped the Dutch national team. A lot of players who have been born in Suriname have moved over to the Netherlands and played for the Dutch side. So Lord knows how many talented players they've lost over the years. They're 2 for 2. Very good goal differential, no doubt about that. Puerto Rico, I know people have complained, hey, wait a minute now, they're part of the United States. That's like having a second U.S. team, slightly different than our team. But a team that has not seen, let's say, fantastic results, as Suriname has. And this is one of these fun groups that, hey, you start dreaming, hey, when I say you, I mean the players start dreaming, hey, maybe this is our time. This is a great opportunity to go deep in the qualification round, or maybe even reach the World Cup. It's really gonna, right now, not knocking this group stage right now, but this is going to get tougher when the third round begins later this year, because now you're going to have the creme de la creme of each group playing against each other.
Absolutely, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait till we get to the fall. It should be a fun time when we draw for those three groups of four. Michael, as always, I appreciate your time. Hope to see you again soon, and enjoy your summer of soccer, Michael. Take care.
Hey, listen, thanks for having me on. Good luck to you, and we'll talk soon.
We'll talk soon. Once again, Michael Lewis from Front Row Soccer joining me to talk about CONCACAF and the World Cup qualification rounds from there. And now it's time to go across the globe. And even though he's from Cincinnati, he covers everything involving Asia. You know him covering FC Cincinnati for Area Sportsnet, but this time join him on his podcast, The Asian Football Show, my friend Kenta Hgiwara. Kenta, welcome back. It's been a while, and how are you, my friend?
It has been a while. I actually leave for Japan in about 10, 11 hours. So
Oh my God!
patching system here, but yeah, always a joy to be on the show.
It's great to have you back on to talk about Asia. It's always, I have to be honest, it's very difficult for me to try to find someone that can cover AFC, matches, AFC information. And, reading your tweets on X, I was like, oh my God, Kent can do it. And thank you so much for doing this for me. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. We already know we have two nations that have already qualified through Asia. Obviously, Iran and Japan. We're going to go from A, B, and C. This is round 3. So here we go. And there we have it. As we all said. Now, my bad. I forgot to add the little orange dot to the right because Iran did qualify out of Group A. They are already in there with 20 points. Uzbekistan in second place with 15 points. Third place is United Arab Emirates, or UAE, also 13 points. Qatar in fourth place with 10 points. Kyrgyz Republic, and if I mispronounce it, you can always assist me there, Kenta, 7 points. And North Korea dead in the water with 2 points only. Now, this is really interesting because the second position is up for grabs for permanent qualification, while third and fourth place will advance to the fourth round. How are we seeing Group A outside of Iran, excuse me.
Yeah, I think Uzbekistan actually should have 17 points, and I think Kyrgyzstan has 6. I think you have a draw in there for the two. But nonetheless, I mean, the second place is still up for grabs. I believe Uzbekistan getting a draw in either of their last 2 matches of this final window coming up in a few days here should secure automatic qualification for them. And they don't necessarily have that difficult of a matchup. They travel to the UAE, which again, UAE has an opportunity to go and get 3 points at home and make that gap between the two teams right there for second place that much closer heading into the final match day. But they do also play a Qatar team that Uzbekistan lost to in Qatar earlier this qualification window. So not the easiest, not the most difficult. But Uzbekistan do need a result to move on, but any sort of result will automatically qualify them. Yeah, Kyrgyzstan, I think for me, has been the surprise of this group. I didn't expect them to be doing this well. They've been close in a lot of their matches. They have had opportunities to be getting more points than they actually have. I mean, they only lost 1-0 to Uzbekistan in Uzbekistan. They lost 2-3 to Iran in a really tight match. They've had some blowouts here and there, but they've been close. So I think they're still vouching for that fourth round qualification window by getting in fourth place and beating out a Qatar team that hasn't been that impressive post Asian Cup in 2023. So I think there's some interesting movement here, but I don't expect the table to truly change in terms of who automatically qualifies, who moves on to the fourth round, and who gets eliminated from what we have in this table. I think it plays pretty true to what we're seeing right here, heading into the final 2 match days of AFC World Cup qualification.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you there. I think it's going to stay as is unless it's a tremendous shift in these last 2 match days in this round. Who will advance automatically to North America? Who will continue on to the fourth round? But you never know. Stranger things have happened. I think we could definitely attest to that. But stranger things have happened. Now we go to Group B in the third round, and we have Jordan right now, 15 points in first place. South Korea or Korea Republic in second place with 14. Iraq in third place with 12. Oman in fourth place with 10. Palestine with in fifth place with 6 points, and Kuwait in dead last, 4 points right now. I think we can definitely say, Kuwait is probably over and done with. Palestine, maybe a slight saving grace, you might say, maybe into the fourth round qualification. We'll wait for that one. But the I would say maybe the top 3, it's basically everyone's going to advance probably in their own way.
Yeah, I think South Korea is first still in the table. I think they're at 16, and then Jordan should be at 13 in second place. But nonetheless, I expect those 2 teams to move on unless Iraq are able to put up a performance against South Korea heading into the final match day, where Jordan and Iraq will play each other for the final match day. So assuming that second and third place are close, that final match where Jordan hosts Iraq, which is currently 3 hosting 2 or 2 hosting 3. My apologies. That could be, again, a really decisive match to see who automatically qualifies and who moves on to the fourth round of qualification. Yeah, Kuwait, it's tough for them. I mean, they play Palestine, so I guess that's an opportunity for them to get some points. But then they play South Korea on the final match day in South Korea, so they would need a result in both matches, and I find that to be really unlikely against a really strong South Korean side who haven't been the greatest. I mean, they have 4 wins, 4 draws in 8 matches. It's not particularly been the most impressive window by them, but it's still been very strong by them. And I don't necessarily see this Kuwait side getting a result in South Korea. So again, I think Oman's spot in that sense is pretty safe in terms of moving on to round 4. I think the biggest question is what Jordan can do to kind of keep, because they only have a point advantage. It's 13 points, 12 points between Jordan and Iraq. So if Jordan are able to beat Oman in this first match day before going into that match against Iraq, they're safe. But if they don't beat Oman in a couple of days here, that Iraq-Jordan match should be a pretty exciting one for the final match day of this group.
Mm-hmm. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, though. Jurgen Klinsmann, who was at the time the head coach of Korea Republic, he was sacked before the qualifiers began, correct?
Yeah. So the former Ulsan HG manager actually took over before the third round, Hong Udoh. So he's been kind of the manager of this round. He's managed all 8 matches of this qualification. It hasn't been like a mid-round sacking, as you kind of see. We've seen kind of in particularly Group C with some of the countries in there. But no, he's been in charge. Hong has been in charge for this third round of World Cup qualification. And again, the 4 wins, 4 draws for them in 8 matches hasn't been super impressive, but it's been enough for them to probably qualify automatically to the tournament.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. And obviously, South Korea now back into their winning ways, of course. And we'll see what happens in this upcoming June window. It should be exciting and fun to watch. And of course, Group C in the third round, we have Japan, who have already qualified with 20 points. Second place, Australia with 13 points. You've got Saudi Arabia in third place with 10 points. Indonesia, fourth place with 9 points. And Bahrain in fifth place with 6 points. China in last place, also 6 points. So once again, I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite yet for that fourth position, because obviously China and Bahrain are still alive. But what makes you think about with Australia right now? I mean, I know they got 13 points, but have they been? Is these 13 points convincing? Is this the same old Australia that we've seen? That excuse me, pardon me. Is this the same old Australia that's been dominating AFC ever since they moved out of Oceania?
It's absolutely not. They had a horrendous start to this window, or this round rather, and they moved on to sign Tony Popovich as their head man, their kind of their manager in charge, and he hasn't lost in the 6 matches he's managed. It's been 3 wins, 3 draws, which again, the winning half of your matches isn't particularly great, but getting a result in every match is uber important in these tournaments because you're also preventing another team in the group from gaining points on you as well, gaining 3 points on you as well. Australia have a tough window. They play Japan and Saudi Arabia, so they'll host Japan on the 5th, and then they travel for that Saudi Arabia match. And Saudi Arabia, they have also kind of been kind of inconsistent, right? We've seen this Japan, Australia, Saudi Arabia group now in 3 consecutive third rounds of World Cup qualification. They've all been in the same group now for what seems like forever at this point. So they know each other well. These 3 teams know each other well. And Saudi Arabia does have the slightly favorable matchups this window, again, by going to Bahrain first, and I expect that to be a win for them, which leaves Indonesia and China as the other matchup. And I think if Indonesia are able to win at home against China, which they've been kind of the surprise of this group, they've been so good this window. And if they do, I think that 4th position in this group is pretty set, which again leaves the automatic qualification spot as the kind of interesting one in the matchup I'm kind of most excited to tune into this window, assuming the results that Japan beats Australia and Bahrain lose to Saudi Arabia, is Saudi Arabia hosting Australia for the final match day, tied on points. Winner moves on to the World Cup automatically, and the loser goes on to the 4th round. So that's kind of the matchup personally that I'm most excited about. But yeah, it's been a weird group. If you would have asked me this after 6 match days, Australia would have had 7 points, and every other team in this group would have had 6 besides
Yeah.
Japan.
No,
Like it was neck and neck. So we saw some separation this past window, but again, it's been so unpredictable in this group that I could see quite literally anything happening with this group. So we'll see what happens, but it's been crazy.
All right. Well, listen, I know you got plenty of time before you catch your plane going to Japan, but still, though, I want you to rest up and get ready for that trip. I know it's a long road, and just enjoy as much sushi as you can. Okay.
I will. Thank you so much.
Well,
Thanks for
thank you.
having me on.
Thank you for coming on, Kenta. I appreciate it, and talk to you when you get back. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Kenta Hgiwara, of course, for Area Sportsnet, covering FC Cincinnati, but for this program, Asian Football Show, his podcast, it's a lot of fun, and can't wait to have him back on to talk about his Asian trip over in Japan and what's going on over there in AFC territory. My next guest covers South American football for Bolivip and many other outlets online. This is Kelvin Loyola joining me tonight. Kelvin, it's great to finally see you in person. Yes, you look like your brother. You definitely
look
like
less like my brother. Yeah, I guess it's the first time we do this with video, but
I know. So, how about
US
that?
jersey, an old school one, but
Why not? Go for
why
it.
not?
Absolutely.
A little bit of optimism.
A little bit of optimism. Hopefully, listen, I have no problem with Pochettino. I have a problem with our players, but that's another story for another time,
That's
though. We'll
another story,
we'll
yeah.
definitely talk about that. I'm going to bring it up real quick, but talk about these qualifiers so far in South America. Have they been what you've expected as always, or has there been maybe a shift going on in CONMEBOL right now on the national team level?
It's kind of a weird situation. I think this qualifying campaign started off kind of with the hangover how the qualification process was 4 years ago, and the intensity of the matches and the physicality of the matches, I think, were really prominent in the first rounds. And then everybody started kind of realizing, hey, this changed, and almost 70% of the continent has the possibility of going to the World Cup. 6 of them are going to go through either way, and the 7th place team will have to play a playoff. But there's a big chance that only 3 teams from CONMEBOL, when historically it's about 4 or 5, don't go, has given a larger margin for error. So we're seeing a lot of teams have a couple of mistakes and hiccups here and there. But if you take a look at the qualifying campaign, there are some teams that are still in the fight to get to a World Cup with only winning just 3 games. And I think it's I think this is a larger conversation that needs to be had, is how national team football competition is kind of dwindling if the World Cup if the qualifying campaigns are going to be done in this manner, especially in South America, which is, I think, known for its intensity, known for its high quality grudge matches, if you will. In my opinion, it's the hardest region in the world to qualify from a World Cup. Back with the old format. With this format, I think there's a lot of national pride. And when you see Argentina play Brazil, or you see Ecuador play Colombia, or Peru go take on Ecuador, there's too much of national pride and too much history in those matches to just kind of gloss over it. But in reality, there's a lot of teams that in previous iterations of World Cup qualifying would be in trouble. Some coaches have been sacked, obviously, because some things haven't gone right at all. You take a look at Brazil. I mean, Brazil just weren't playing well, and now with Carlo Ancelotti, look for a revival. But truth be told, I mean, top places 1 through 6, in my opinion, look kind of wrapped up already. It's just going through the motions of just ending the competition. And I think Venezuela and Bolivia, who have 15 and 14 points right now, are probably looking for that 7th spot. So that's kind of my take a little bit of the whole situation. It's these matches are still intense, but I think we're going to see probably for the next one for 2030 a decrease probably in the intensity in these games, because let's be honest, I mean, you really have to have a horrific campaign to be out of the World Cup. And you take a look at some of these records. Some of these guys are batting under 500, and they're pretty much guaranteed a spot in the World Cup, which I think is a conversation for another day, the implications of all of this. But the usual suspects, I think, are going to go.
Now, as everyone can see, excuse me, sorry about that. Argentina has already qualified for the World Cup. They advanced with 31 points. Do you feel that this Argentina side, even though we all know Messi is at long in the tooth right now, he's probably getting closer to the end of his career, both internationally. I don't know if he still has more left in the club game, but I mean, is there a reality setting in right now in Argentina that this upcoming World Cup is his last?
Yeah, but it's not as detrimental as it was with Diego Maradona. And what do I mean by that? Argentina, it took a long time for Argentina to get used to the fact that Diego wasn't the best player in the world, and it took various relapses and everything that happened near the latter end of the career of Diego to realize that Maradona was not going to play anymore for the Argentinian national team. I think with Messi, because of his longevity, the fans have understood that he's at the tail end of his career. If he's there, great. If he's not, well, nobody doesn't not want to see Messi. But I think the Argentinian public, especially with the appearance of Franco Masantuono and another young players that are coming up in Argentine football, I think we're seeing a feeling around Argentina that they want Messi to be there. This is his last hurrah, and hopefully maybe he can win one more World Cup before he goes from the national team. But I think the Argentinians, unlike Diego's time, I think they feel that they're in safe hands. I think they see a generation of players coming up that could give a lot to the national team. And look, right now the news in Argentina isn't that Messi's going to play these games. Everybody in Argentina is putting their eyes on Franco Mastantuono. They want to see him play. He's arguably, without question, the best player in Argentinian football. He won't be in Argentinian football much longer. He's given his word to River Plate that he'll probably play out this year, and most likely for the start of 2026, he'll most likely be in Europe. What team? Everybody's fighting for him. So and you have Thiago Almada, who's coming into his own as a much better player, much more finished product in Europe. I mean, there's a lot of players out there. Julian Alvarez, who's still very young. I mean, this is a team that still has at least one more World Cup cycle in it, where if some of these pieces from the old guard are replaced properly, and all indications look like Mastantuono could be a very respectable understudy once Lionel Messi is no longer available. All indication is Argentina looks solid. Nobody wants to see Messi go. Everybody wants to see Messi's magic. And And I think anybody who's been kind of watching Messi the last few months kind of sees, he's getting up in age. He's still the best player of all time, in my opinion. But it's, I don't know how much can Argentina really depend on Messi to win the next World Cup. I think he's going there to be like Maradona was in *94, to give the team a morale lift, that there's somebody of that magnitude amongst these great players. And Messi, I think still has a lot in the tank to probably give it everything he's got next summer, and that'll be it. So, but I think to make my answer shorter than the long version that I just gave you, I think Argentina is much more prepared for the departure of Lionel Messi than it was back during the era of Maradona, which was very traumatic.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Now, let me ask you this. And even though there's not much time left with this final days in the international windows here for Brazil. Now, normally I wouldn't ask this question, but the way that they've played and the way they've had shocking results, and with the injury to Neymar that has knocked him out again, making this change to Ancelotti, is it too little, too late for them to keep their automatic qualification to the World Cup, or do you feel that? And we'll put up the schedule soon for this month. Do you feel they could fall to the playoff, and would that be an embarrassment to them?
I think Carlo Ancelotti is going to get into a situation where he's going to walk into that room, and that locker room is going to respect the man. He's coached most of these players. These players know exactly what to expect. He is a player's manager above everything else that he is. I think what makes Carlo Ancelotti such an excellent manager, he's a player's manager. He was a player, obviously, a good player at that. I think we're going to see a jolt in Brazil. I think as Carlo Ancelotti, Brazil and the U.S. are kind of on the similar page, with the exception that Brazil is arguably a much more talented team than the United States. World Cup qualifying, believe it or not, has never meant much to Brazil. I mean, yes, they'd like to finish first, but if they're fourth, this is a qualifying campaign where they could literally end up sixth, and it's going to be the same results. Once they get to the World Cup, they could do damage. Are they as talented as previous Brazilian teams? I think that conversation is old hat. I mean, no, obviously not. There isn't no Ronaldinho. There isn't a Ronaldo. There isn't a Roberto Carlos. There isn't a Rivaldo on this team. But the players that are there now are not bad players. I think, they're not the mega superstars that we were used to in the past. But I think there's a lot of talent in the Brazilian national team, and some good young talent in Brazil that I think in the hands of Carlo Ancelotti, he could find a place for them. He could get these guys to be playing at a much better level than they are. This whole talk about, how is he going to understand the Brazilian culture? A lot of these guys have been playing in Europe for 10 years already, 5 years already. A lot of these players he's brought along. It was him who positioned Vinicius Jr. to be one of the best wingers in the world. And Vinicius Jr. in many ways at times returned that favor by showing great performances for Ancelotti at Real Madrid. I think this is a team that was too talented for the coaches that they had. The Brazilian coaches are not on par with the level of play of their players. It's just a reality. The best coaches in Brazil aren't even Brazilian at the moment. One is an Argentinian, and another one is from Portugal. So I think that was the major issue. And I think the Brazilian Federation was very intelligent to say, look, our local coaches are not getting it done. We need somebody who can really do this. They played patty cake a year ago. This would have been done a year ago. But Real Madrid wanted Ancelotti to stay. And I think Ancelotti saw staying at Real Madrid was the best decision for him then. And now it's changed. And I think he wouldn't have taken this job if he thought he was going to fall flat on his face. I think, he like I said, he's been coaching some of these players. The players that are going to be on this national team, he had them 3 weeks ago. I know they must have been talking about this throughout the year. I think he's ready for what's going to happen. And I think it's going to do Brazil a lot of good, because in the door is walking a manager who has for very little exceptions, has been able to win everywhere he's gone, and do it with different types of teams, with different styles of those teams, and he's always been able to adapt. So, I'm not worried about Brazil not qualifying to the World Cup. How far can they get to the next World Cup? That remains to be seen. But, I don't think we're going to see something, I don't think this team is going to crash into a wall now that they have a manager that they can finally look at and say, hey, we're being coached by somebody who's probably in this room way better than us in absolutely everything. So, I think they're finally in a situation which the Brazilian national team has needed for a long time. I truly believe Brazil has been coached most recently by underqualified managers, and that's what's hurt them the most, rather than Neymar's injury, rather than a couple of players not playing, being on par. I mean, it's hard to be inspired when you're being coached by somebody who you have no faith in.
Very true. I agree with you there. And finally, for me, I guess I have to go with you now with Uruguay. What job has Marcelo Bielsa done with Uruguay? I'll tell you right now, Uruguay has been sensational in qualification. I know they're in third place at the moment, but still, though, I mean, I thought they probably would have unseated the top two and maybe finish first or second. But like you said, as long as they qualify for the World Cup, that's all that matters. But Uruguay, I think, has really been solid.
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking to this a lot about this a lot with my Uruguayan colleagues here, and it's in many ways Marcelo Bielsa was entrusted with taking Uruguay through a generational change, and I think Uruguay and Uruguayan fans have realized that it is a generational change. I think the capacity that Uruguay had up front with Cavani, Suarez, and back a little bit further back with Diego Forlan, those type of Class A players has dwindled. I mean, Darwin Núñez has the potential of maybe being a Class A striker, but he's it doesn't seem like he's going to be that kind of a player. He's going to be a very good player, but maybe not at the caliber of a Cavani and a Suarez, I think. And then from there, it drops off quite a bit, right? And then from there, some of their attacking options are Kike Oliveira and Brian Rodriguez, who are kind of in a way MLS rejects, right? So it's there's a drop of quality from the A team to the B team. Now, what I think Marcelo Bielsa has done right for Uruguay is been able to navigate those waters and still keep the team in third place. Along the way, there was a very good Copa America, despite the fact that they finished third. I mean, I know maybe some other fans who are listening to this, Uruguay finished third in the Copa America, and that was disappointing. Yeah, they're 15-time Copa America champions, and Uruguay, it's nothing spectacular to beat Brazil. They're one of the few teams in the world that could claim to beating Brazil a lot of times in their history, and in big matches to boot. So this is a nation, even though it's a small nation of only 3 million people, that feels that they have a team that should be fighting for championships. And I think when it's all said and done, I think some of the more purists are going to look at it and say it was a waste of money. Bielsa was making $4 million and we didn't win anything. But I think if you dig a little deeper, I think he has been able to navigate these waters that have been bumpy. Yes, Uruguay is third, but let's keep in mind that if you take a look at some of their games, Uruguay has struggled tremendously to score goals. Tremendously. They've had good play, but they have not been able to score goals. And they've been very good defensively, which is kind of strange considering the way Marcelo Bielsa plays. But they have struggled a lot to score goals. And there have been a lot of questions of why Bielsa hasn't given younger players like Luciano Rodriguez more of a chance. I'm one of the few that's raising my hands and saying, hey, look, Diego Rossi is playing very well in MLS. He could help the Uruguayan national team.
Yeah.
If they're giving Kike Oliveira a chance, who's didn't do anything in Major League Soccer, doesn't do anything in where he's playing at now. How come a guy who's been playing, who did well in MLS, did well in Turkey, came back to MLS and is doing very well in MLS, cannot play on this national team? And I think that's the other aspect to this, which has the Uruguayan fans kind of frustrated, is that Marcelo Bielsa is stubborn in his ways. He believes in his system, and he's a master at executing his system. But when his system has some of these holes in it, there are some players that have to break that mold. And I think at this point, asking Marcelo Bielsa to change his ways is a waste of time. He's not going to do it. And he's going to die with some of the players who I think have underperformed for the team. And he's going to leave away the opportunity to see players who I think could really help the team out. I don't know. It's going to be we're still almost a year away from making a final conclusion. But I would say right now, I would grade his time as the manager of Uruguay with a B, a solid B plus. But in a way, it's an incomplete. I think there was a lot of illusion that Uruguay is going to break the mold, win another Copa America. I think it's going to be a bitter pill to swallow if Uruguay looks back and says, "Oh, we had Bielsa for 4 years and we really didn't win anything." And I think this is a country that's very proud. And I think on paper they had a team, especially the way they were playing a year ago. They had a team that probably should have won the last Copa America.
I absolutely agree with you there on the Copa America, but we'll see what happens. But as always, I appreciate your time, Kelvin. Have a good night back in Montevideo, and hope to talk to you again soon. Thanks again for joining me tonight.
No, thanks a lot for having me. Have a good one, everyone.
All right, take care. Once again, Kelvin Loyola from Bolivia in South America, and other websites covering the sport, and of course, Major League Baseball. Big baseball guy he is. Joining me now, live, coming from his home in Virginia Beach, he covers Africa, the Confederation of African Aids Football, the one and only, the best of the best in African football reporting, Collin Udoh, joining me now. Collin, thank you for your time. I know you're a very busy man, and I appreciate you coming on.
That's fine, Daniel. Anytime, you're the man.
Oh, thank you so much. I have to tell you, so many groups now for Africa and all the qualification spots given to the Confederation. What changes have you seen in these qualification matches that you've seen maybe that are different in past World Cup qualification moments?
So I guess, overall, CAF qualification has always been a bit here and there. So, one cycle you get one qualification system, the next cycle you get something different. But with the current cycle, because Africa now has 9.5 places at the World Cup. So the changes there has just been they've created 9 groups with 6 teams each. So I guess the one major thing that we can take from that is that we have more countries being involved than ever before in World Cup qualifying, because that's a lot of countries being involved in the final phase of qualifying. So, and that's why you have countries that you wouldn't have thought of in the past taking part in these qualifiers. And in many ways, that's been a good thing, because you look at some of the countries that are actually contesting for a place to go to the World Cup, and you look at some names that you wouldn't ever believe would be in contention. I think that's a major plus for Africa.
No, that's great to hear. And I have to admit, as I'm going to set the graphics up very soon and show you and everyone else on the show, the one thing I have to say is this, and I'm very a visual person myself. I am amazed at the amount of different colored flags that each country has. Some of them are very, very beautiful, I have to admit. Wonderful colors on the flags, just unbelievable, and certain descriptions. But outside of that, I try to get as much involved outside of CONCACAF in Europe, and so everyone goes to Europe and South America, I know, but I try to go outside of that, because everyone else deserves to be talked about in world football, and just to see what goes on not only in African Cup of Nations but in World Cup qualifying. It's just been tremendous what they've done. Some of these players that come that play in Europe or excuse me in MLS.
Oh yeah, true. We're seeing quite a lot of players getting involved. Like I said, the smaller countries having their chance and their time in the sun. And just to make that point, if you look at there's a group, a sort of a runners-up rankings group that to pick the 4 teams that will take part in the playoffs. And you won't believe who's there. You've got Rwanda, you've got Tanzania, you've got Comoros, Mozambique, Namibia, Gabon. So these are countries that, under normal circumstances, you wouldn't even think about them in the context of a World Cup qualifying, and they're right there. And when you also look at the top goal scorers, you also see some players that you wouldn't think are going to be there. I mean, Musa Barrow from the Gambia is there. Kenya's Michael Lunga is involved there. Ryan Raveloson from Mozambique. So Steve Munier from Benin. There's just so many of them that you think, okay, I mean, this is a veritable shopping or a platform to put them on the shopping window, and it just makes things so much more interesting. And yes, about the flags, I mean, even I get confused sometimes when I look at them, but I absolutely love them. I think Nigeria has got to have the simplest flag in Africa, just green, white, green. The others,
Exactly.
you've got a multiplicity of colors.
It's just unbelievable. So we'll quickly go into the groups. Now, there are no matches in this window, but everything will wrap up this upcoming fall in September and October. But let's just go ahead and just quickly give a recap what's going on in all these groups. We'll go to Group A right now. And that has with Group A, we got Egypt leading with 16 points. We have Burkina Faso in second place with 11 points. Sierra Leone in third place with 8. Ethiopia in fourth place with 6. Guinea-Bissau, also 6 points, but they're at -2 in differential. And Djibouti with a single point. The Pharaohs absolutely are dominating this group, but, Burkina Faso, just a single point behind them. Are they giving Egypt a run for their money?
Oh, they most certainly are. I mean, you can see it's a 5 point difference, and when you've got 4 more games to go, anything can happen. And Burkina Faso are no slouches when it comes to African football. They've been to the final, if I remember correctly, in 2013. They were in the AFCON final where they lost 1-0 to Nigeria. They've won. They've been in third place and playoffs multiple times, so they've got the experience of playing at this level. And if Egypt were to slip up, you definitely would think that Burkina Faso will be there waiting for them. And so. Although that's unlikely to happen. I mean, when you've got Mo Salah and that whole Egyptian team, it's hard to see them slipping up. So yeah, Egypt running away with this one, and I do expect them to confirm their place in short order.
Absolutely. Now we're going to move on to Group B, and over there we have Congo DR in first place with 13 points. Senegal just a point behind them in second place with 12. Sudan in also third place with 12 points, but they have a +6. Togo, 4 points in fourth. South Sudan, 3 points in fifth. And Mauritania.
Mauritania, yeah, it's called
Mauritania, thank you.
Mauritania, yeah.
I try my best. If I make it's
Yo.
$10, it's $10 in the mistake jar, I promise. 2 points right now. How solid and dangerous is this group right now with the top 3 just, dominating?
Oh, very, very dangerous. I mean, DR Congo, Senegal, Sudan, all tied on 12. Senegal and Sudan on 12. DR Congo just a point ahead. But here's the thing: Senegal have got the pedigree, and you've always got to look at Senegal and think they will come through at the end. And when you look at the games that they've got left, you have Senegal playing against Sudan, which is for me is going to be one of the top clashes of the next window, because then it kind of separates the two. Whoever wins that, sort of like, opens up the gap, and it's being played in Senegal. So you've got to fancy Senegal to get there, while DR Congo travel to South Sudan, which is a very, very war concerning banana peel, because they can't slip up. And if they do, Senegal going in front is going to be hard to catch up with them.
Very true, and that looks like it's going to be a good one here at the death with these last 2 windows in September, October coming up. And now we go to Group C here for CAF. We got South Africa leading the way with 11 points in first place. Benin in second place right now with 9. Rwanda in third place with 8 points. Nigeria with 7 points in fourth place. Lesotho in fifth place with 6 points, and Zimbabwe last place, 4 points. Why has Nigeria, usually a strong nation in World Cup qualification and reaching the World Cup, why have they recently been struggling?
Well, One would say, I mean, usually you say a series of unfortunate circumstances, but I think I'd flip that and say a series of incompetent circumstances because, in fairness, look, it's just been, stumbling from one mistake to the other. Nigeria have had four coaches during this qualifying run. Jose Peseiro, who opened the qualifiers with draws against Lesotho and Zimbabwe, and then we now had Austin Eguavon, who took over briefly, didn't get a good result either. Finidi George came, sorry, I beg, Eguavon came and then Finidi George, and then now we've got Eric Sekoshia, the former Malian coach. So four coaches, and all they've been able to get is 7 points. Now, as a Nigerian, I wish I could tell you I'm confident they can turn this around, but it's going to be hard. If they had held on to that 1-0 lead against Zimbabwe, you might have said, okay, yeah, at 10 points, they might have been able to push this. But here's where it gets complicated for them. They've got games against South Africa, against Zimbabwe, and so on going up. I think the last three games would be against Rwanda first, and then they play against South Africa, and then they play against Lesotho, and then they play against Benin Republic. Now, under normal circumstances, you'd say with their back to the wall, the old Nigeria team, they win those four games, that's 12 points. You add that and you give 19 points. But here's the problem. South Africa are playing against Lesotho, they're playing against Nigeria, they play Zimbabwe, and they play against Rwanda. Now, all those games are going to be played in South Africa. Now, the reason being that all of these other teams don't have approved stadium for the home games, so they've moved all their games to South Africa. So now they're playing all those games in South Africa in front of South African fans. So you'd be hard pressed to think that South Africa will not win at least 3 out of those 4 games. Maybe they won against Nigeria, they probably get a draw. Even if they lose, they still find themselves in very, very good position to advance. And their 11 points, don't forget, came because they were docked 3 points by FIFA for using an ineligible player who was on 2 yellow cards. So that's why they're on 11, not 13. So, I mean, if they win 3 games out of 4, that gives them additional 9 points, puts them on 19. So Nigeria have to now win all 4 games to get to 19 and tie with South Africa. And then, you find out who's second base on goal difference. South Africa topped out with +5. Nigeria will have to go to the playoffs and see if they can make it from there. But right now, I can tell you as a Nigerian, I have no confidence this Nigeria team will win 4 games in this qualifiers.
I'm sorry to hear that, but I mean, if that's what's going to happen, unfortunately, that's what's going to happen. You have to go for the future, it looks like, for Nigeria right now. But we'll see what happens down the road. Group D now. Pardon me, as we go ahead. I think this is a big shocker for me. Of course, then again, you know more than I do. Cabo Verde in first place with 13 points. Cameroon in second place with 12 points. Libya in third place with 8 points. Angola in fourth place with 7 points. Mauritius in fifth place with 5 points. And Eswatini. Did I say correctly?
Eswatini, yeah, you got Mauritius and Eswatini.
That's right. 2 points. 2 points. Well, I thank you for look. Like I said, if I make a mistake, you can correct me. I'm okay. Cabo Verde. See, I expected Cameroon to dominate this group, and Cabo Verde is up by a point now.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about when I tell you that, these qualifiers give a chance to some of these countries to come up and, have their time in the sun, and not just have their time in the sun, I beg your pardon, but also to actually make a shout for quality. Now, Cape Verde have been growing in recent years. They denied Cameroon qualifications to the Africa Cup of Nations once and almost denied them qualification to the World Cup another time. So they didn't just step out of the woodwork. They've been growing, they've been there. And even though I still think that, because the thing about Cameroon is when push comes to shove, they tend to show up. So my thing is that as good as Cape Verde have been, I don't expect this to be surprising. I do expect Cameroon to beat Eswatini in their next game. Cape Verde travel to Mauritius, which might be a bit tricky for them. And then they come and play at home against Cameroon. And that has always been a difficult game for Cameroon going to Cape Verde to play. And Cameroon not just the best. So we'll know in that game who's going to the World Cup. If Cape Verde win, Cameroon, I don't think Cameroon can come back. But if Cameroon win, it's settled.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. And now we're going to move on to Group E. Now this is the group it's kind of strange for me to see this happen a little bit because obviously you started off with 6 nations, it dropped to 5, and then after the first couple of international windows, it dropped down to 4. Obviously, Congo are banned due to government interference, and Eritrea. Did I pronounce that correctly or no?
Yeah, Eritrea.
Thank you. They stepped down because apparently they were worried about political players using political asylum to leave their country. Is that the correct response to that?
Well, look, Eritrea are in a bit of not a good place at the moment from a
I see.
political standpoint, and since I think since 2009, when the current president has been in charge, Isaiah's Afwerki, you've had well over 60 players, you know, take advantage of football to escape and request political asylum. And largely because the regime tends to impose lifetime military service on young people. So a lot of them just want to take off and go. So I think the government looked at that and thought, okay, look, it's time to stop that because they were going to play 10 games and almost all those games are going to be on the road. So there was no guarantees that those players were going to come back. And so the government just shut that down. And despite appeals and supplications from players and others, the government refused to back down.
That's a shame. But we all see Morocco dominating this group. Obviously, they'll definitely qualify. Probably probably September is when they're going to do it. I mean, they probably need 2 more wins anyway to do it if they
Yeah.
depending on what happens. But who do you think could make that possible second place finish in this group? Could it be Tanzania? Could it be Zambia? Could it also be Niger?
No, I'm looking at Zambia. Zambia are pretty strong. I mean, they only have 6 points now, but I think that Zambia are in a very, very good place to get there. They play Morocco. I think the second game of September because their game against Eritrea has been cancelled. So they play Morocco. They probably get a point or two out of that. But even if they don't get that, I expect them to get points off Tanzania and in their final game against Niger. So I think Morocco might be in a good place to get that second place away from. I beg your pardon, Zambia might be in a good place to get that. Now, Congo have lost 5 games, and here's the thing: the 5 games they've lost, 3 of those have been forfeits, which is interesting. 2 of the forfeits came when they were banned, like you talked, they were suspended rather by FIFA due to interference by the government in football activities. And then the other 2, they lost 6-0 to Morocco and 4-2 to Zambia. So how do you play 5 games and you lose 3 on forfeits just because the final one, the game against Niger, was because they refused to travel to DR Congo for their game because their regular stadium was did not meet hosting standards. So it's I mean, what is World Cup qualifying in Africa without drama and
Exactly.
controversy?
If there's no drama, there's no football. That's for sure.
I'm telling you, I can tell you that.
Absolutely. So we'll go ahead to our next group. We'll go to Group F, and here we go. I hope you'll be proud of me when I say it correctly. Cote d'Ivoire, correct?
Côte d'Ivoire. Côte d'Ivoire.
Cote d'Ivoire. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ivory Coast, but they're in
Yeah.
first place. They're in first place with 15 points. Gabon tied for first with 15 points, but I'm sorry, I read that wrong. It's 16 points for Ivory
16.
Coast,
Yeah.
15 points for Gabon. Burundi in third place with 10. Kenya in fourth place with 6. The Gambia in fifth place with 4 points. And Seychelles dead last, unfortunately. No points, no wins, no nothing.
Mhm.
Top 3 looking right now. Has Burundi started looking dangerous now? I don't ever remember them threatening for a World Cup spot or for a African Cup of Nations spot.
Yeah, not threatened per se, but they have been. They've been banana peels for a lot of countries, including Nigeria. They've been spoilers a little bit. So, and they've got Bigirimana, who is no slouch. He's a very decent player. But I think in the end, it's still going to go to Gabon. When you've got a player of the quality of Aubameyang, it's kind of hard not to get. I mean, the last game he was suspended, he didn't play, and the team still came out with a 2-0 win. I think the only issue they might have is they're probably in mourning because they lost a player recently. Yeah, but I think maybe that's going to spur them even further to want to dedicate the World Cup, well, at least the second round place to them. But it's hard to see anyone toppling Ivory Coast in that group. They're strong, they're good, they've had some great results, and they're looking good for it. So Gabon's going to give them a run for their money, and in a slip up, of course, they know they're going to be waiting for them.
No,
But
absolutely.
Seychelles have been eliminated. They are one of the teams that have been eliminated. And Gambia cannot qualify directly, but if they garner enough points, they might be able to go get in second place and go into the playoffs.
That should be a fun one. I can't wait to see if the Gambia
Mhm,
can make that run. I'll be
mhm,
watching out for that. Next one, we have Group G coming up for you right now. And here it is with Group G. Algeria in first place with 15 points. Mozambique in second place with 12. Botswana in third place with 9 points. Uganda in fourth place with 9 points as well. They're even on the differential. Guinea is in fifth place with 7 points, and in last place, Somalia with a single point. Algeria looking like the favorites, but
mhm.
um, Mozambique. I'm not gonna say clear cut favorites yet for Algeria. Mozambique, I think they might surprise here.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the thing again. When you've got when you see these countries and they come up like this, you know that they can test you. The thing is, when it gets to the business end, things just kind of take a different turn. Now, the reason why Mozambique are even in contention in that second place is that Algeria lost to Guinea, and they lost at home to Guinea. So Guinea are a
Ooh.
strong team, and if Algeria had won that game at home, they would have been on 18 points, and with a lot of daylight between them and Mozambique. So I still think that Guinea are gonna have a lot of things to say about what happens in this group. They play Somalia next, which is not an issue that I trying to win that game away in Somalia, but I think that playing at home to Algeria, Guinea probably win that game, and then that puts the cat among the pigeons because Mozambique play Botswana the same weekend, and I expect Mozambique to win that. If that happens, then that group goes, all the way to the wire because on the last day, Algeria play Uganda and Mozambique are away to Somalia. So watch out for what happens. In the next round of the second window, well, in September, the second window in September, when Guinea play Algeria and Mozambique play Botswana.
Very true. That should be a lot of fun. Now we're going to move on to Group H. And in Group H in Africa, we got Tunisia in first place with 16 points. Equatorial Guinea in second place with 13 points. Third place is Namibia with 9. Liberia in fourth place with 7 points. Malawi in fifth place with 6 points. And Sao Tome and Principe, unfortunately, no points. They probably have been eliminated already. But still, though, Equatorial Guinea, a surprise for me. I didn't expect them to get 13 points in this one. And they've been a country for how long now?
Um, for a fair bit, Equatorial Guinea have been in the country for a fair bit, but I think a bit of correction there. Equatorial, they were docked uh for the 2 games. They
Ah,
forfeited 2 games because they fielded ineligible player, their former player Emilio Insue. So because of that, they've dropped all the way down to fourth position on 7 points. So what we have is Namibia were awarded 3 points in that first game. So that's why Namibia are up there in second place over Equatorial Guinea. So what you have the actual tables is you've got I think Tunisia, Namibia, Liberia, Equatorial Guinea in fourth, Malawi in fifth, and Sao Tome and Principe in sixth position and eliminated.
that's why I have you here, Colin, because my information is inadequate right now on this group. That's my bad. I should have known better, but I appreciate your information for that one. It's a shame that an eligible player had to be used for the
Yeah.
games, but still, though,
Again. Like I
Yeah,
said, what's Africa? What World Cup qualifiers in Africa without controversy?
exactly.
It's what we do.
It's what we do. That's a shame. Oh my God. But yeah, what are you gonna do? This is you gotta get to the greatest football party in the world, you know? You gotta reach it
Well,
somehow. As the
exactly.
as
Somewhere,
a
somehow,
some way
you
survival.
gotta get there. Yep.
By hook or by crook, as they say in the old days. We'll
Yep.
see what happens there, but that's a
Mhm.
shame. And now we go to the last group, Group I in Africa. We have in first place Ghana, 15 points. Of course, no surprise there. Ghana, one of the best nations in Africa right now. Comoros in second place with 12 points. Madagascar in third place with 10 points. Mali in fourth place with 9 points. Central African Republic in fifth place with 5 points. And in last place, poor Chad. I feel bad for Chad. No wins, no nothing. Chad is going to his room without dessert,
Yep.
unfortunately. But
0 for 6 for Chad.
uh,
I think they've got the worst record with 14 goals conceded and sorry, 1 goal scored and 15 goals conceded. So yeah, Ghana running away with this one. I think they've only lost one game this series. So which is and it was against Comoros, interestingly, which is a very interesting. So but here's the I don't know little tidbit. Ghana failed to qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations,
it's true.
and
That was a
now
shocker.
they're running away with their World Cup group. Now, by contrast, Nigeria cantered to AFCON qualification. They could even afford to lose the last game at home,
Hmm.
to Rwanda because they qualified already. So they put out a bunch of like more like a C team out there, and they lost 2-1 at home because I mean they kind of like walked through the qualification, and now it comes to the World Cup qualification, and Nigeria are struggling. So again, Africa always throws you some surprises. So yeah, I do expect that Ghana will seal their place by the next window, with at least a game to spare going into this one.
Very true. And you know what? A lot of fun, a lot of excitement. Can't wait what's going to happen in September and October. But, at least we're all caught up to date with what's going on. And thank you for Colin for your time. I appreciate it. Please tell your wife and your child I apologize. You can
No.
tell them it's my fault. I'll take the blame. If they want to throw the
Yep.
meal in my face, I'll take it. So,
I think I'll do that. That might help me get out of the doghouse.
that's the point. I'm here to get. I'm your wingman here. I'm here to help you. I got your back. Don't worry about that. But I
Yeah,
do appreciate your time, Colin. I really do, and hope we'll get some great football action in September, October, and talk to you then. But as always, keep doing what you're doing for African football, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thank you very much for your time.
thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you.
Uh,
Collin Udoh, once again, ladies and gentlemen, covering African football. He covers it for ESPN and other outlets over in Africa and does a very good job with it. That's why I always have him on to talk about African football as much as I can. Pardon me. So there you have it right now. We don't have to worry about Oceania. We already know New Zealand advancing in the automatic spot for Oceania in the tournament for their qualification round. And, of course, New Caledonia will be going to the playoff, and just a lot of fun, a lot of excitement talking about world football, and we'll see what keeps on going here. And don't forget, we got international break right now. Follow everything and anything World Cup qualifying. You can either go through Fox Sports, you can go through ESPN, you can go through CBS Sports Golazo if they're going to have something there, Fubo TV. Also double check with beIN Sports. They're still around. And anywhere else that they broadcast, of course, go to livesoccertv.com to check out anything and everything football, television, and streaming wise for your enjoyment. It should be a lot of fun. I want to thank my guests tonight. I want to thank once again Michael Lewis of Front Row Soccer for CONCACAF. I want to thank Kenta Hgiwara from Asian Football Show on AFC. I want to thank Kelvin Loyola of Bolivip for CONMEBOL South America, and now Collin Udoh, ESPN, and other African outlets covering CAF Africa. My name is Daniel Feuerstein. Join me this coming Wednesday as I'll review the CONCACAF Champions Cup final with Michael McCall from Away from the Numbers over in Vancouver, British Columbia. And of course, it'll be a very solemn report. Other than that, and we'll talk everything else going on with the U.S. men's national team and reviewing the New York Red Bulls' 2 victories over Charlotte FC and, of course, Atlanta United. But for now, join me on Wednesday night. Thank you very much for joining me live tonight. I hope all of you will have a great evening. And as always, please, 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 please enjoy your football. Thank you. Have a good night. Take care. So long and bye-bye for now. Have a good night, everybody.